Hey friends, we are excited to have you back for another episode of Revival or Die. And with this particular episode, I think it's really, not only is it such an important message that we've seen so much lately in places we've been traveling to, but what's exciting about my guest today is I've actually been able to see the power of the gospel in her life just over this past year, a little over a year now. So with that, she's going to share her story. And I pray as you listen to this, that it will really impact your heart and maybe others when it comes to the understanding of what does true salvation look like? What does it look like to really be saved and born again? Because sometimes what it looks like on the outside isn't really what's going on the inside. And there's got to be evidence. There's got to be fruit. So with that, I want to invite my friend Ellie. Hey, welcome to the show. It's exciting to have you here. You know, you're part of our home church, and being able to just watch your life and see the process of what God's been doing in you. It's so encouraging to me and to the rest of the Jesus Revival crew here. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So Ellie, why don't we start from the beginning? I mean, I know your story, and I don't know fully all of the story. Sometimes I like to just keep it a little bit of a mystery till I hear it here, so it's fresh to me too. But I know that the outline of it. You were raised in church, right?
Yeah, I just always have been part of the church.
Okay. So you've been around the church. You went to like Sunday school, all those different things. But what happened in your life? You know, like the name of the show, it's Revival or Die. When was that moment when it went from like being raised in church, being around the church, to really experiencing Jesus? Lead us into that, and even like what you were going through beforehand, because there were some different things you were going through, especially I think in your teen years and up. So share that with us.
I definitely did love God, like since I was little. Like once I heard about Jesus, I was like, yeah, I love him. Why not? Like there's nothing wrong with him. Yeah. He's beautiful. He's God, and there's heaven. So right. And I think I just loved rules. And so I was like, I'm okay with following rules.
Okay. All right.
As a kid, that was really all I knew about Jesus.
Yeah.
And then by like freshman year, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be this person anymore. So I'm going to try something different. And I like totally like repressed all of my personality, basically. So I went from...
So you just went like totally introvert.
Yeah, definitely. 100% introvert. Like I went from 100% extrovert and crazy and whatever, like one crazy end of the spectrum, to the complete opposite. And I became afraid of people. I was just so like obsessed with people, with what people thought of me. Like I was so worried about how they saw me, what they thought when they looked at me. It started like really enslaving me by sophomore year. I was super depressed. I'm crying myself to sleep every other night.
Wow.
And it wasn't anything that I thought was like deep or dark or really concerning. I was just like, yeah, that's just how I feel.
So and let me be clear. So this whole time you're in church.
Yeah.
I
was involved with youth group. And
no, did you go to public? Was it public school?
It was public school.
Okay, public school. But you were like in youth group. So you're surrounded by church people. You're surrounded. You're hearing this, but this is still where you're at.
Yeah. And at the same time, I was still trying to be like someone who shared my faith and tried to bring people to Christ.
Wow.
And because I was told like that's the thing you're supposed to do. And because like if you love Jesus, you want to share him. And so I still loved Jesus. I didn't trust him with everything. You know, like in youth group, they'll talk about it, but the one thing that would have really like helped that is like if someone would have come and like discipled me, like just going through like life with them and learning like, oh, like I'm not alone, and someone's gonna walk through these things that I don't understand or I'm struggling with. Like I can have someone, I'm not alone in that. Like
so community.
Yeah, that was a big thing lately.
So I just want to shout out too for those who are watching, listening. Man, you heard her words, discipleship. I wish I had someone to disciple me. That's a huge thing. That's like, that's what we're told to do, the Great Commission. It's not just to evangelize, it's to make disciples. Yeah. And it's been key as I've watched it in my own life and in those that I've seen that have like progressed in their faith rapidly are those who've, they've literally grown barely in like 10 years, and discipleship and community made all the difference. So if you don't have that, my friends, you need to pray and ask God. And trust me, if that is your earnest prayer, you say, Lord, I'm asking for somebody to disciple me, and I'm asking for community. And then you're humble enough, and then sometimes that's the key. You're humble enough to seek that out and admit you need it. God will answer that prayer. It's so important that we find ourselves in a strong, healthy community if we're going to grow and really be effective and have a healthy faith, which looks like love, joy, peace, and the fruit of the Spirit. Tell me the moment kind of when you came to that place where it's like, man, I was raised in church. I knew about God. I've been kind of doing this thing, but something's missing.
Okay. So throughout high school, it kind of was like an up and down. Like I got depressed, and then I went to like a winter retreat, and it was like, oh, God is here and I can trust him and I can give him my burdens. And then COVID hit, and I was like, and I got lazy in my faith, and like anxiety really came in. And so when I went into college, my first year, I went to Moody Bible Institute, and I lived on campus in downtown Chicago. From the first day, I was so anxious. Oh, it was so rough. Like that was, So like anxiety and depression were at its peak. Sophomore year was kind of when I like had like suicidal thoughts a lot. I was just like always in like suicidal ideation of just like, oh, it would just be so nice to not be here.
Now you're not be alive. You're at Moody now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So raised in church, in, Christian family, like all around these things, going to youth group. Now you're in a Christian college, struggling with suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And so I was so like unstable and so like obsessed with like myself and how people perceived me. Like being at Moody, it was wonderful and I learned a lot, but it was also like the lowest part of my life. When I was anxious, which at one point it was all the time, so I would like always like scratch myself. Like I was always scratching myself when I was stressed. I were like pulling at my skin. Like at that point where I hated myself. I really tried. I guess I tried to forget it, but like I did really like hate myself, and just like all that paranoia and all that like just self-criticism.
Sure.
And like
so we're almost like, oh, that's normal.
Yeah.
It's not that like big a deal.
Yeah.
Most people are going to go through this, and we just kind of, we roll with it.
Sad. Yeah.
So where was the moment where all of a sudden it's just like,
yeah. So, no, I keep
no.
So much.
No, I like, let me just say, I appreciate you, sharing those details, because, it's not that easy to do. And being fully transparent so people can see, because there's, you're not the only one out there. There's people out there that they might not be on a podcast mic. They might not be sharing these things, but they're actually living these things.
Yeah.
So this is going to help people. But where, what does God do then to bring this to a place where you have that encounter?
I went through therapy. My therapist, she was not Christian. It was just basic, like, don't think bad thoughts.
Right.
Having very high ups and very low lows when like kind of going through that. You guys started doing your like Jesus nights. And I remember there was one of them. There were a few that I went to. But I remember one I like specifically, like, or maybe it was one after church or something. But I was like, I need to call off work for this. Like, so it was like important to me to like do something different, like seek God more. So I did know that about God and I trusted that. And so I was like, okay, yeah, obviously, if I want to get better, I need to go to Jesus. And so I started going to these like events. And I remember one of them, like there was like, I was praying beforehand. I just need someone to pray for me. And that night, like I came in and then like, I think you asked me to share my story or something. And I kind of shared a little bit.
Okay.
And then everybody prayed for me.
Wow.
Like
come on.
everybody, not just like one person. Like everybody started praying. And it was like, that was just like one little moment. It was like, God, you hear me. You care about me.
Amen.
Like that's kind of when that started like being understood, I guess. I started realizing, okay, yeah, I do need to give this to God. I do need to trust God. And I love him, so I'm going to pursue him. And so then, yeah, like April comes around and the boot camp.
Hey, bro. Shout out for Revival Boot Camp.
Subtle
coming up
plug.
soon. Shameless plug.
Yeah. So yeah, I went to that. Let's see. So we did the boot camp, and that was when I really started realizing like this, like to live is Christ, to die is gain.
Hey.
That phrase, like when you guys, and that was like the theme of the whole boot camp, which was beautiful. But that was just so life-changing, I guess, and just groundbreaking, even though I've heard it before,
Yeah.
I didn't want to live. And like before I was like, oh yeah, to die is gain. I feel that.
Wow.
But to live is Christ. And I want to be like Christ.
Yeah.
I love Christ. That realization that this isn't about me. This isn't about whether I want to be here or not. Like God's the one that put air in my lungs.
Amen.
He's the one that's keeping my heart beating. He's kept me alive for a reason. I need to die to myself. I need to repent. The first night of the boot camp, I got baptized.
Yes. Hallelujah. That was, I won't forget that.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
that was so cool. The whole thought in my head was like, I'm going to go down and that old life is gone and I'm going to be new and I'm going to live.
Yes.
And I'm going to live with Christ and for Christ.
Yeah.
And so just seeing that as like my engagement to God. Like,
Amen. Come on. But here's the thing, and here's what we found is like yourself, you knew about the Lord. You knew about the Lord as a young girl, raised in this, but it wasn't until you came to that place where you're like, you explained the baptism thing, you realized you had to die.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what Jesus said, that you must be born again. The only way you're born again is understanding that you are dead in your sin, and that's why you need to be born again. But a lot of people never come to that place where they realized, I'm drowning in an ocean of my own sin. I cannot save myself. Only Jesus can save me. We've been reluctant to kind of present the gospel in such a way that it makes it so easy just pray this prayer and you're in. And without even giving people an explanation of like, listen, you are lost. No one is righteous. Nobody does good. We all, without Christ will perish. Like Jesus said, unless you repent, you will perish. Jesus' first message was repent, for the kingdom of God is here. Hey, listen, when did you come to that place where you knew you were wretched without God? Like you had no hope. You were on your way to hell. You were a child of the devil, that you had to reach out to God and you had to give him your life. You had to lose your life. You had to die to yourself. Like Jesus said, if you try and seek to save your life, you'll lose it. But if you lose your life for my sake, you will find it. That speaks to people in church. Even ministers and pastors, where they're living this Christian walk, but they're trying to save their life.
And like the self-preservation.
And self-preservation and the fear of man. And that's why I think you experience so much of that anxiety, because you can't serve God on your own. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think the evidence, like just looking at your life, the anger, the frustration, the anxiety, that's the works of the flesh. Doesn't matter if you're in church or out of church. But what is the fruit of the Spirit? According to Galatians 5, it's love, it's joy, it's peace, it's long suffering, it's patience. So I'm looking at your life. I saw you the way you were before, and the things you're struggling with, and the way that there was like a lot of fears and anxiety, which wasn't God. It's totally of the enemy. And now I'm looking at your life now.
I'm free, baby. You're
free. Come on. You're a living example of what it means to truly know God, to truly be born again. According to Jesus, he promised it. He said, he who the Son sets free is free indeed. And so I just, even as I'm sharing that with you, but everybody out there, if you are in a place and you're frustrated with yourself, or maybe you're seeing this, in your community of people, man, it may be that, we're frustrated because we're like, why don't these sheep get it? Why don't they listen? Why don't I listen? Well, it may be that you're still a goat. You've never actually come to that place where you lost your life, where you were crucified with Christ, where you died with him, and then you rose again. So the bottom line is, you need to die to yourself And then you can actually live. And that's when the identity comes in, because it's Christ in you, the hope of glory. Galatians 2:20 says, Paul said, "For I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but it's Christ in me. The life I now live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me." Yeah. It's just a beautiful thing.
I feel like with the baptism, like that point in my life, I think that's when God really like took away the depression. But the anxiety did still linger.
Okay.
And then there was the Tuesday night, like at discipleship group at your house.
Here at the house.
We were talking about anxiety. Like,
oh, I remember that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like that discussion, like you just asked the question, like, is anxiety sin? And at first I was like, no, it's a mental illness. Like, I'm mentally ill. That's what the world tells me. And just I remembered like the point of like, you can't bear fruit if you're living in anxiety. You're not bearing patience and joy and peace, which I did experience joy and peace when I got baptized. But when I started letting those thoughts, I wasn't doing my job of taking them captive, because anxiety really is just the indulgence of fearful thoughts, which are worries. And Jesus says, how many times, do not worry, do not be afraid.
Yes.
Do not worry about anything, but instead rejoice about everything. Praying consistently, like
you have the techs over here all agreeing with you. They're like, yes, they're rejoicing.
I believed the lie again that I wasn't really fully capable of taking them captive. And I think that's really what was the downfall. That lie really got me. Like, I mean, fear is the natural response, but anxiety is the holding on to it, not trusting God with it, holding it for yourself and saying, God, I don't believe that you can really do anything about this. When I realized like that is a sin, that is an idol, I was so excited, because finally it wasn't this like mystical thing that I had to wait for maybe healing, maybe if Jesus felt like it.
Wow.
Like, it was my responsibility, and God was right there next to me. Like, I'm going to help you work through this. So the next day at my college, so I'm at community college now, and there was this like show that was going on in my school. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get tickets for me and my friend. When I went up to the ticket booth box office thing, it had a little sign and it was like, okay, I'm on break. I'll be back at 1:15. But then I go up at 1:17 and the sign says, I'll be back at 1:30. And I'm like, what? What? Okay. And then 1:30 comes, I go up and the sign says 1:40. And I'm like, but while I'm waiting for 1:40, this girl comes. The girl's like, hi, do you want to join a Bible study with us? And I'm like,
whoa.
What? You're Christian? And so they're like, here, I'll give you my number. We're meeting like at 2. It's almost 1:40. It's like perfect timing. I would not have been in the building if it was
been right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and they were looking for their friend in that building. They wouldn't have even been in that building either. It's just purely God. It's like, get the tickets, whatever. And it's like 1:55. Like, it's perfect timing, honestly. And I go in my car. Like, if I didn't learn about anxiety the night before, I probably would have been like, okay, these are strangers. If I go now, I'll probably never see them again. Like, I didn't have any classes with them. I didn't know them. You know, I could have just gone home. But because I had that still in my mind of like, I'm free. I'm 100% free. Like, I need to deny these thoughts of anxiety and fear. I can do that. I can go visit some strangers, talk about Jesus, see what happens.
Yes.
I go there and I meet these people. There's like 5 or 6 of them there. And like one of the co-leaders, like we just start exchanging like testimonies and that kind of thing. And I'm like, whoa, this is just really cool. I'm like so glad I said yes to come. Like, there's been a lot more yeses and a lot more change.
Yes.
Like,
wow.
Oh my gosh, it's been crazy. So that Friday they had this like multiple campus Bible study. Like, there were a bunch of
everybody
people
came together.
Yeah, from like Chicago area.
Okay.
And we were all just packed in this auditorium, like standing room only. And it was just so hyped, and everybody was just there for Jesus. Like, whoa. And I would never be here if God didn't set me free.
You wouldn't be there if you allowed anxiety to make that choice for you.
Yeah. And the girl that like brought me to the Bible study, we've been doing like mini Bible studies together.
Yeah.
And so like they've been like really leading me like to the Bible. Like the most recent Bible study that we've kind of done like is discipleship. And it has been cutting. Like it has like pierced, like you know, like the Bible is a double-edged sword. It has done some surgery. The main thing, like you need to be able to leave everything. We can't follow Jesus if we're holding on to other things. One thing you lack, go sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me. And that was really up to the young ruler to do that or not.
Right.
And he turned away because he wasn't really there to follow Jesus. He was there for inheriting eternal life. Then Peter spoke up, "We have left everything to follow you." "Truly, I tell you," Jesus replied, "no one who has left home or brothers or sisters or mother or father or children or fields for me in the gospel will fail to receive 100 times as much in this present age. Homes, brothers, sisters, mothers, children, and fields, along with persecutions, and in the age to come, eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last first." But yeah, like if I'm willing to give everything up for God and like to follow him, he will provide
everything else. And Jesus makes such a clear distinction. He says at one point, he says, unless you're willing to forsake everything, you cannot be my disciple. But he says this, he says, "Do you suppose that I came to give peace on earth? I tell you, not at all, but rather division." Everybody's like, we just want peace on earth. But it's like, well, first you have to have peace with God. Like there is no peace until there's peace with God. Right now, if we don't know God, it says we're enemies of God. Like I'm actually like at odds with God until I come and humble myself and receive him. He goes on to say, "Father will be divided against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." So Jesus is looking at like these close, intimate relationships. And he says, because of me, there's going to be those separations. And he's saying that in the same way that he's going through this time of suffering, so will you. So he's not like hiding anything. He's saying, listen, this is going to cost you everything. And I think that's, even today when we are sharing the gospel with people, we have to be like raw with them. I think the more raw we are, it's like, listen, dude, if you're going to pray this prayer, this isn't going to save you. Praying some magical prayer won't save you. Faith in Jesus saves you. But understanding when you do that, you are surrendering everything. Things like anxiety and other issues continue to flourish in the church because people don't look at it like the enemy. They don't look at it as something that needs to be crucified. They don't look at it as something that needs to be like aggressively fought against. And as a result, they don't fulfill what God's called in their life. So, we always talk about revival and the revival that's happening, revival or die. And it's like, I want to run this revival race, and I don't want to like get burned out. Like I want to continue. It's a marathon. And I want to, and for you and everybody else, is like, I want to see us finish this race. And if we're going to finish it, it involves every part of me. And that's why we're told also to love the Lord our God with all our mind, all our soul. Every part of us is to love God wholly. And that's what's going to allow us to fulfill everything he's called us to do. So thank you so much, Ellie, for your story. It's powerful. It's a powerful testimony.
Praise God.
You're going to speak to so many people. So let's do this just as we wrap this up. I want you just to look into that camera right there. Yep. You're going to look into that and just pray for what you would want someone to pray for you back when you were in that time of struggle, in that area where you were going through all these things, like that same thing you'd want to be prayed for. Pray for that person that's listening now that's in that situation.
I really, really pray that for the Christians who are diligently seeking you, who are struggling, who think they're in this alone, that you would send disciples their way to bring them in, to show them the truth, to preach repentance and baptism and new life.
Yes, yes.
And sacrifice for you, God. And I just pray that you would encourage everybody listening in the way that they need it. They might not want to hear what you have to say because it might be hard. It might be cutting. It might be brutal, but you're not just brutal. You're delicate, you're gentle, you're kind. With the cutting, with the heart surgery you give us, you are so gentle and kind, and you give us space to rest and to heal. And I pray that as you work on our hearts, that we would not let it get infected. We would not let our eyes or our hearts or our lips or any part of us be infected with sin anymore. We are free because of you. And so help us to live freely.
Yes, Lord.
I pray that any sin, if there is any twinge of sin, any kind that has a grip on anybody who is desperately seeking after you, I pray that you would reveal it and bring them to repentance and freedom, because you hold it. You are giving it out with open hands. You are giving freedom to us at all times. And I'm just so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for your kindness and your mercy and compassion and grace. Like, we don't deserve this. We don't. Every person on this planet has been an evil creature who has been a son and a daughter to the devil. You said that. You said that. And we don't deserve your love or your sacrifice, but you gave it because you love us. You're incredible. And so you deserve the praise. And so I pray that you would just open our hearts to give you that praise with all of our being.
Yes.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Ellie, thank you so much for being so honest, so open, transparent, sharing your heart, sharing the word of God, encouraging people. For those of you watching, just want to say thank you. And I pray that, one of the things you can take away from this, and I pray that it really gets in your spirit, anxiety is not your friend. You do not have to live in that anymore. Ellie is living proof of what that looks like and everything she shared today. So I want to challenge you, when you feel this anxiety, when you feel this fear, or the fear of man in particular, that you don't allow that to be something you just, that's just the way it is. No. Take authority over that in the name of Jesus. Refuse to allow that thing to grip your life. God has given you responsibility, and he's given you the power, and he's given you the authority to take that thought captive to the obedience of Christ. My friends, Ellie's story is about freedom. That can be your story. God is no respecter of persons. And I've heard these testimonies so much more lately about the freedom that God is bringing in the lives of believers, not just people who were, came out of like drugs and addiction, but I'm talking about people who grew up in church. God is bringing freedom 100%. That is the promise in the gospel. That's what he has for you. So go after it. We love you. We bless you. We thank you. And continue to say, revival is now. Let's keep burning for Jesus.